Hi, it's Ashleigh from Sweet Dreams Bake Shop, and welcome to Fail Friday, the series in which I fix your baking fail, my baking fail, or I tell you how to avoid a fail. And in today's video, this isn't necessarily a fail, but I really did have to optimize my time. So if you've ever been in a situation where you have forgotten an order or you're just completing a really large order in a short amount of time, then hopefully this video will give you a little bit of comfort and maybe some tips on how I optimize my time. So whenever I'm cooking, I go through about 5 different stages of feelings. Tell me down below in the comments if you can relate to any of these. So the first feeling that I always have is I like to get really hyper organized because I find it makes myself feel better. I comfort myself when I'm super organized. So here I'm still feeling pretty good. I'm getting all of those doughs ready, and I know that this is going to take me approximately 2 hours or so just to bake all of these cookies. I've done this enough times that I know how long 80 cookies is going to take me. So in order to optimize here, I really just like getting as many pans ready as possible. I find that if I at least have 4 pans going at once, this really helps speed up the process because you can cut out a lot more cookies. Now, if I'm really in a crunch, I will try to actually start the decorating process during this time as well. As we know, sugar cookies don't take that long to bake. It approximately takes about 12 minutes to bake, and my cookie recipe doesn't really need that much chilling time, so I really only needed 10 minutes for that to rest in the refrigerator. Now, one of the challenges that you might have as an at-home baker is that it's not like working at a bakery where you're actually separated from your home life. So sometimes when I am doing things, I'm getting interrupted by having to do something for the kids or tend to some other pressing matter. Now, I will say that during this time, I was still doing all right. I was still in that first kind of cookie stage where I'm just getting really organized, but I'm feeling pretty optimistic still. As I'm getting to the end of my dough here, I always struggle with making sure that I get as much cookie as I can out of that. Now I'm moving on to the royal icing. All of the cookies are baked and they are cooling. Now the great thing about cookies is it's not like cake where the cakes really maintain the heat for a long time. Cookies lose their heat fairly quickly. And actually, icing cookies when they're a little bit warm still is not going to do any harm. Now, if you've done a lot of cookie decorating before, then you know that this part, although very simplistic, takes a long time. And yes, I do speed up this process, so you can only imagine how much slower it really is in real life. And I did this 85 times. Now, I could have dipped the cookie, but I wanted this look. And when you want this type of pipe and flood look, then you do have to put in the time. So at this point, I'm in that work stage. So I would call this stage number 2, where you're just really focused on doing the work and getting it done. Now, I might look like I'm just doing the same video clip over and over again, but I am switching those cookies back and forth. Let me know if you can relate to having to switch those cookie pans back and forth. And even though it seems like such an easy task, you do lose time doing this. So try to optimize it as best as you can by having everything in an order that is going to work for you. I find I like to go pan by pan. It was at this point that I started to reach cookie stage number 3, where you're just so exhausted, but you know that you have enough time still to get everything done. So if you just take a break, maybe go to sleep, and then wake up the next morning a little bit earlier, things are going to get done. So I was still feeling optimistic, but I was exhausted. I should also mention that I was placing this into my dehydrator and oven in between pans just to get this nice and solidified. So if you want to see how I do that, go ahead and check out that video in the right-hand corner. I woke up the next morning fairly early, but I had other things to do, and this is when I always run into trouble. Most of our kitchens aren't super huge, and I even have a second kitchen, but I still find that I run out of space when I'm working on multiple things, especially if they are large orders. So I was working on cake and cupcakes during this time, but I did have to hand paint these all as well. So if you're taking on multiple orders at your baking business, it's really all about deciding which thing that you're going to do first. Now, I would have really liked to have finished hand painting all of these and then moved on to the next task, but my orders were due very soon. Now, I keep saying orders, but you guys know I don't actually run my home baking business anymore. I really just make this for friends and family, but it appears that a lot of things are happening in April. So anyway, I decided that those other things took precedent, so I took a little bit of a break from this. Now, it did take me, I think, approximately 3 to 4 hours to finish hand painting all of these, and I was trying to go as quickly as possible. I do find this a little bit trickier because I was copying a particular drawing. Now, I wasn't doing everything exactly to a T, but I was being careful about following the same shape and making sure that I had relatively the same colors. Now, there is really no way to optimize this portion because you just have to kind of hand paint everything. There is no stencil to get the exact same type of drawing for every single one. So you really have to make sure that you are doing everything you possibly can to not make a mistake, because mistakes are the things that are really going to slow you down. Now, for this watercolor painting, it's fairly simplistic. I'm just using my airbrush colors and then watering it down with some vodka just so that it dries really quickly, but gives me that nice kind of watercolor effect. At this point in time, I was still in that stage where I was just working. I was kind of renewed from my sleep. So if you have that luxury of being able to sleep in between or take a break in between when you're doing a large order, do it. But of course, we've been in those situations where we just have to kind of keep going. And that brings me to the next stage, where I just feel so cookie tired. But you kind of see a light at the end of the tunnel because you're loving how it's turning out, but that doesn't stop that fatigue from setting in. And especially with cooking, I find that my hands do get tired after a while. Even though I have lots of experience with making a bunch of cookies, it seems to always happen, especially after that 60-ish cookie mark. And then finally, I hit that last stage where I just feel a sense of accomplishment and I'm loving the way that everything has turned out. Now, if I had to package these as well, that is another story. But let's get into the pricing. So these are pretty straightforward. For the really fancy ones that has all the lining and the gold, it is $5.50 each and $3.75 each for the more simplistic ones. Now, you guys know that I do have a 24 order minimum per design, but because the designs are so similar, I would not implement a 24 minimum per design. So I hope if you're making a large cookie order right now that you feel a little bit of comfort in knowing that we all go through some struggles. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can be part of the Sweetie fam. Right now, I'm uploading weekly, so make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when I upload. Also, be sure to comment, request, or ask a question. I love hearing from you guys.